Perplexity Computer, new AI works whilst you sleep. So 2 days ago, a company that most people had quietly written off dropped something that I think changes the entire conversation around AI. Not tweaked it, not moved the needle a little, changed it. And the crazy part is almost nobody saw it coming because for the past 2 months, Perplexity, one of the most talked about AI companies of the last 2 years, went completely silent. No announcements, no product updates, no viral tweets. Their CEO, Aravind Srinivas, who is normally one of the loudest, most active executives in the entire AI world, just disappeared from the conversation. And whilst everyone else was arguing about OpenClaw and Claude Code and which AI model was going to win the AI race, Perplexity was sitting in a room, heads down, building something. On February 25th, 2026, they showed the world what that something was. It's called Perplexity Computer, and I've spent the last 48 hours going deep on this thing, reading everything, watching every demo, talking to people who already used it, and testing it myself. And I want to walk you through exactly what it is, why it matters, and what it means for you, because this isn't just a new AI tool, this is a new category of thing entirely. And if you're running a business, if you're a creator, if you're a freelancer, if you're anyone who does knowledge work for a living, this affects you. Let's get straight into it. So first of all, who even is Perplexity and why should you care? If you're not familiar with Perplexity, here's a quick version. Perplexity started as an AI-powered search engine. The whole pitch was simple. You type a question, instead of getting 10 blue links like Google gives you, you get an actual answer, a real written answer with citations updated in real time. It was genuinely good. Millions of people started using it. For a while, they were the hottest thing in AI search. People were calling them the Google killer. Investors were piling in. The press was going crazy. But then something shifted. The whole AI world started moving away from search and chat towards something bigger, agents. Systems that don't just answer your questions, but actually go out and do things for you. OpenClaw blew up and got millions of users almost overnight. Claude Code went viral because developers could suddenly build real software just by describing what they wanted. And Anthropic launched Cowork. OpenAI was shipping new agent tools every few weeks, and suddenly being really good at AI search felt a little bit like being really good at making really fast horses right when cars were being invented. Useful, impressive, but not where the world was going. Perplexity saw this, and instead of panicking, instead of rushing out a half-baked agent just to stay in the headlines, they went quiet, they went heads down, and they built Perplexity Computer. So what actually is Perplexity Computer? Well, I want to explain this in the simplest possible way because the name is a little confusing and the marketing language doesn't always help. Perplexity Computer is not an actual computer. It's not a piece of hardware. It's not a laptop or a desktop or a device of any kind. It's a system, a cloud-based system that you access through your browser or phone. But here's what makes it different from every other AI tool you've ever used. Every other AI tool, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever, works like this. You type something, the AI responds. You type something else, the AI responds again. Back and forth, question and answer, prompt and reply. That's fine and that's useful, but that's still you doing most of the work. You're still the one who has to figure out what to ask. You're still the one who has to take the answer, decide what to do with it, open the next door, ask the next question, piece everything together. The AI is a really smart assistant, but you're still the manager. Perplexity Computer flips that completely. So you describe what you want the end result to look like, just the outcome, just the finished thing, and Perplexity Computer figures out every single step required to get there, assigns each to the right AI, runs everything simultaneously, and delivers the finished product. You are no longer the manager. You're the person who gave the brief, and Perplexity Computer is the entire team. Here's what that actually looks like in practice. Let's say you're running a small business and you want a full competitive analysis of your market. You want to know who your top 5 competitors are, what they're doing well, where the weaknesses are, what their customers are saying about them, and you want it turned into a slide deck you can show your team on Monday. The old way is you spend a weekend on this. You Google each competitor, you read their websites, you check their reviews, you open ChatGPT and ask it to help you write things up. You open a slide tool and start building. Maybe you get it done by Sunday night, maybe you don't. Perplexity Computer way, you type that paragraph I just described, you hit enter, you go do something else. It researches every competitor simultaneously, reads their websites, their reviews, their press coverage, their social media, analyzes the data, writes the analysis, builds the slide deck, and then it delivers it to you whilst you were doing something else. And that is the thing. That is the whole thing. The part that made me stop and reread this is when I first read the Perplexity Computer announcement, there was one sentence I had to read like 3 times before I fully absorbed it. Perplexity said their system is capable of running for hours or even months. I want to sit with that for a second because I don't think most people are really hearing that. Every AI tool you have ever used runs for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes for something really complex. You ask it, it answers, the interaction is over. That's the entire model. Perplexity Computer breaks that model completely. You give it a project, a real ongoing multi-month project, and it will work on that project continuously in the background, updating as new information comes in, checking back in with you only when it genuinely needs a decision from you. Think about what that means for a second. Imagine you're a real estate agent and you want someone to monitor every property listing in your target market, track price changes, alert you when something interesting happens, and compile a monthly report. That's a job, that's a part-time employee. Or it's Perplexity Computer running in the background, doing that job every day indefinitely without you ever having to think about it again. Imagine you're a content creator and you want someone to monitor your niche for trending topics, pull the top performing posts from your competitors every week, and give you a content brief every Monday morning. That's a social media manager, or it's Perplexity Computer. Imagine you're an investor and you want ongoing monitoring of specific companies, earning reports, news coverage, analyst sentiment delivered to you in a structured format on a regular schedule. That's a research analyst, or it is Perplexity Computer. This is the thing that I think most of the coverage has missed. The run for months part isn't a technical footnote, it's a whole pitch. Now let's talk about the Halley's Comet story and why the name computer is actually genius. Perplexity included a historical story in their launch post that I think is one of the smartest pieces of product storytelling I've seen in a long time. In 1757, a mathematician named Alexis Clairaut was trying to solve a genuinely hard problem. He needed to predict exactly when Halley's Comet would return. This was complicated, hard mathematics, the kind of calculation that one person working alone could not realistically do in any reasonable amount of time. So Clairaut did something smart. He hired 2 apprentices and the 3 of them split the work into pieces. Each person took a different part of the calculation. They worked day and night for months. They checked each other's work. They combined their results and they successfully predicted the return of Halley's Comet within 2 days of accuracy. Here's the part that makes this story relevant to what we're talking about today. Those 2 apprentices that Clairaut hired, their job title was computers. That was a real job title. A computer was a person whose job was to compute, to calculate, to do the mathematical work that one brain couldn't do fast enough on its own. The word computer has always meant the same thing: autonomous division of complex work with accuracy as a central requirement. When Perplexity named their product computer, they weren't being lazy. They were making a statement. They were saying, what we're building is what a computer has always meant: autonomous division of complex work, smart delegation, accurate output. The difference is that now the computers are AI models, and instead of 2 apprentices working for months on one math problem, you have 19 AI models working simultaneously on your project. That's not a gimmick, that's a paradigm shift. Now let me walk you through exactly what's under the hood here, because this is the part that makes Perplexity Computer genuinely different from anything else available right now. Most AI products are built on one model. So you open ChatGPT, everything runs on GPT. You run Claude, everything runs on Claude. You open Gemini, everything runs on Gemini. Each of those models is extraordinary at some things and genuinely limited at others. There is no single AI model that is simultaneously the best at deep research, the best at reasoning, the best at generating images, the best at generating video, the best at fast, lightweight tasks, and also the best at holding massive amounts of context in memory. That model doesn't exist. What Perplexity built is the next best thing. They built a system that knows which model is best at which thing and automatically routes every piece of every task to the right model. Here's how the lineup works right now. So you got Claude Opus 4.6 made by Anthropic, which sits at the center of the core reasoning engine. This is the brain. This is the model that takes your goal, breaks it into a task graph, makes the decisions about what needs to happen and in what order, delegates work to the other models, and makes sure everything comes back together correctly. Gemini handles deep research, so when the system needs to go out and really dig into a topic, spinning up multiple search threads simultaneously, synthesizing large amounts of information from across the web, Gemini is on it. Nano Banana handles images because you need a graphic, a visual, and illustration that goes through Nano Banana, and then Veo 3.1 handles video generation. You need something turned into video content, you use Veo 3.1. Grok handles quick, lightweight tasks, so when speed matters more than depth, a fast lookup, a simple calculation, a quick summary, Grok handles it so the heavier models can focus on harder work. And GPT 5.2 handles long context recall and wide search, so when the task requires holding an enormous amount of information in memory at once, or casting a very wide net across a huge information landscape, GPT 5.2 is the right tool. 19 models total, all wrote in automatically, all working simultaneously, all reporting back to Claude Opus 4.6, which sits at the center, making sure everything comes together into one coherent output. Now, here's the part that I want you to really absorb. Every single one of those models, Claude, Gemini, Grok, GPT, is a best-in-class system of what it does. You're not getting watered-down versions of any of them. You are getting the actual frontier model, doing the thing it's best at on your project. That is not how any other consumer AI product works right now. That's genuinely new. I want to pause just for a second because I talk about this stuff every single week, and I want to make sure that you know where to go when you want to go deeper. The AI Profit Boardroom is my community where we break down exactly what these launches mean for your business, your income, and your daily workflow. Not the hype, not the marketing language, the actual practical application. What do you do with this? How do you use it? What does it replace? What does it cost? Is it actually worth it? We cover all of that every week, new tools, new breakdowns, new workflows, and a community of people who are actually building with this stuff, not just reading about it. If you want to be in the room where the conversation is happening at a practical level, the link is in the description, or just go to the AIprofitboardroom.com. Come join us. Okay, let's go back to Perplexity Computer. Now, I've done multiple videos on OpenClaw at this point. If you haven't watched those, I'll put links in the description, or just go to my YouTube channel, Julian Goldie SEO. But let me give you the quick version because it's important context for understanding why Perplexity Computer is significant. OpenClaw is an open source AI agent that you install on your computer. It connects to your files, your email, your apps, your browser. It can take actions on behalf, writing emails, executing code, managing files, automating workflows. It went completely viral. Millions of installs, developers all over the world building skills for it, a genuine phenomenon. But here's the thing about OpenClaw, it's powerful, and it's also kind of terrifying to use if you're not technical. You're installing software that has access to your entire computer, your files, your email, your everything, right? If something goes wrong, and things have gone wrong, I've covered the security incidents in other videos, the consequences can be real. Files deleted, data exposed, systems compromised, and beyond the security concerns, it's just not that easy to set up if you're a developer. You need a dedicated machine, you need to manage the setup, and that's a real technical barrier. Fortune magazine described Perplexity Computer as OpenClaw for everyone else, and that framing is right. Perplexity Computer gives you the power of an AI autonomous agent, the ability to run complex workflows, to chain tasks together, to have AI do real work on your behalf without any of the setup, without installing anything on your computer, without giving an AI access to your personal files, without needing to be technical. You go to the Perplexity website, you describe what you want, the system runs in Perplexity's cloud, not on your machine. It uses a real browser, a real file system, real tool integrations, but all of that is contained in Perplexity's infrastructure, not yours. You get the power without the risk. You get the results without the setup. That is a genuinely important distinction, and it opens this technology up to a completely different audience than OpenClaw was ever going to reach. Let's talk about what one person built overnight, a real example. I want to give you a concrete example of what Perplexity Computer actually produced for a real user, because I think abstract descriptions only go so far. So a writer named Karo Zimienski, she's an AI product manager and workflow optimizer who published a detailed review on Substack, stayed up testing Perplexity Computer the night it launched. In one night of testing, she built 2 micro apps. She completed 4 research packets. She automated a lot with the power of Perplexity Computer, and what she said came out of it was a backlog of build ideas she's still working through. 2 apps, 4 research reports, and an automation all in one night. Now, I want to be clear here, these weren't enterprise scale deployments, these were micro apps and research packets. But the speed at which she produced them is the point. The bottleneck in knowledge work has always been execution time. You have the idea, you know what needs to happen, but then you have to actually go do it, and that takes time. And that time is the thing that limits how much you can create. Perplexity Computer compresses that bottleneck dramatically. The idea goes in, the output comes out, and the gap between those 2 things shrinks to something that would have seemed impossible 2 years ago. Let me walk you through some specific use cases because I think this is where the real conversation gets interesting. I'm going to do this fast, I'm going to paint some pictures, and I want you to map these onto your own situation as I go through them. So if you're a solo creator or freelancer, think about how much of your week is research, reading articles, pulling together information, synthesizing it into something useful. That's Perplexity's Computer entire specialty. You describe the research report, it goes and does it, you come back to a finished document. Think about how long it takes to go from idea to published content. You have the idea, then you research it, then you write it, then you format it, then you publish it. Perplexity Computer handles the research leg of that entirely, and increasingly it can handle the writing leg too. You go from idea to nearly finished draft faster than you currently go from idea to outline. If you're running a small business, competitive intelligence is a full-time job for a lot of companies. Monitoring what competitors are doing, what customers are saying, what's changing in the market. Most small businesses don't have someone dedicated to do this because they can't afford it. Perplexity Computer can run that as an ongoing background task continuously, updating automatically, delivering structured reports on whatever schedule you set. You don't hire a market researcher, you give Perplexity Computer a brief and it runs indefinitely. If you're in sales or business development, research before a meeting takes time. Who is this person? What does their company do? What are they dealing with right now? What are their customers saying about them? That's 30 minutes to an hour of preparation per meeting, right? Or it's a Perplexity Computer workflow that runs before every meeting automatically and delivers a briefing document to your inbox. If you're a marketer, content calendars, trend monitoring, competitor content analysis, SEO research, these are tasks that take and eat up hours every single week. Running them as an automated background workflow in Perplexity Computer doesn't just save time, it means you're doing them consistently on schedule every week without having to remember to do them. The work that was getting skipped because you were too busy doesn't get skipped anymore. If you manage your team, think about all the reports and summaries and briefings that flow through your organization every single week. Status updates, market overviews, customer feedback summaries. A huge chunk of that work is information gathering and synthesis, which is exactly what Perplexity Computer is built for. You set it up once, it runs, you get the output, you make the decisions. The human in the loop moves from gathering information to acting on it. That's a fundamentally different and more valuable use of human time. Now, I want to be straight with you about this because I think it's important. Perplexity Computer is genuinely impressive, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't also tell you where the limits are. First, it costs $200 a month. That is not cheap. The max subscription, which is the only tier where Computer is available right now, is $200 per month. That's $2,400 a year. For a lot of people, that's a real number. That is a budget conversation. That's something you need to justify. The question you have to ask yourself is, what is 1 hour of time worth, and how many hours per month would this save me? If you bill at $100 an hour and this saves you 3 hours a month, it pays for itself. If it saves you 20 hours a month, it's the best investment you've ever made. But you need to think about your actual use case, not the impressive demo, your situation. Second, it's not magic. The quality of what you get depends heavily on how clearly you describe what you want going in, right? So if you give it a vague prompt, you're going to get a vague result. If you give it a specific, detailed brief, here's exactly what I want, here's the context, here's how I want it structured, here's what I'll use it for, you get something that's genuinely useful. The people getting the best results from Perplexity Computer are not the ones treating it like a Google search. They're the ones treating it like a smart contractor that they're briefing. Third, there are copyright concerns hanging over Perplexity as a company. Semaphore and others have noticed that Perplexity faces several legal problems related to how their search product handles copyrighted content. That doesn't necessarily affect how well Computer works for you day to day, but it's a business risk for the company and it's worth knowing about if you're thinking about building workflows around their platform. Fourth, the technology is very new. This launched 2 days ago. The people who have tested it overnight are enthusiastic, but overnight testing is not the same as 6 months of production use at scale. There will be bugs, there will be tasks it handles worse than you expected. There will be edge use cases, and that's true of every piece of software at launch. But if you go in with calibrated expectations, not the assumption that this will perfectly replace a team of human workers on day one, then you're more likely to get more out of it. Here's what I want to zoom out to for a minute, because Perplexity Computer doesn't exist in a vacuum. In the last video I did on Agentic Web, I talked about, how Coinbase, Stripe, Cloudflare, Google, OpenAI, and Visa are all simultaneously building infrastructure for a world where AI agents are full economic participants on the internet. Agents with wallets, agents that can pay for services, agents that can access content, agents that execute code, agents that can run for months without supervision. Every major AI company right now is racing to answer the same question. The question is, what does AI look like when it stops being a tool you pick up and put down and starts being a worker that you brief and then get out the way of? OpenAI answered it with OpenClaw and, for example, their agent commerce infrastructure. They just recently acquired OpenClaw and Peter Steinberger, the founder. Anthropic answered it with Claude Code and Claude Cowork. Google answered it with their agent protocols and Gemini-based workflows. Now Perplexity has answered it with Computer. They all look a little bit different on the surface, different pricing, different audiences, different technical approaches, but they're all pointing at the same future, which is a future where the bottleneck isn't AI capability. The AI can already do extraordinary things. The bottleneck is orchestration. The bottleneck is routing. The bottleneck is is the system layer that takes a human goal and intelligently distributes it across the available AI capabilities to produce the best output. That's the race, and what Perplexity has done with Computer is build one of the most serious entries in that race yet. I keep coming back to an analogy that I used recently because it's the best frame I have for what's happening right now. In 2007, when the iPhone launched, the web already existed. It worked on phones technically. It was designed for desktops, and the experience on a phone was honestly terrible. I was there, I remember. What followed over the next decade was a complete rebuild. Responsive design, mobile-first frameworks, app stores, push notifications, GPS-based services, tap to pay. The underlying infrastructure was the same internet, the same servers, the same data, the same content, but the interface layer forked completely. And the companies that understood the fork early, that built for the new client instead of trying to make the old interface work on the new device, those were the ones that defined the next era. For example, Uber didn't exist on the desktop web, not because the desktop web lacked information about cars or maps, but because it lacked the interface primitives that made Uber possible. Real-time location, always-on connectivity, tap to pay, push notifications. Instagram didn't exist on the desktop web, not because the desktop web couldn't display photos, but because it lacked the camera-first, mobile-native interaction model that made Instagram what it is. And we're at the same fork now. The web and our software tools are splitting. There's a human version, the version with fonts and layouts and clicking and typing and doing things manually. And then there's the agentic version, the version where you describe a goal and a system of AI models executes and implements it autonomously. Perplexity Computer is one of the most significant entries in the agent version, and the businesses that emerge from this fork will be companies that could not have existed in the human-centric model. Not because the human-centric model lacks informational capability, but because it lacks the interface primitives that agent-native work requires. Automated orchestration, multimodal routing, persistent long-running workflows, and asynchronous execution. Those are the GPS and push notifications of this era, and Perplexity just shipped them in a package that anyone can use. I've been talking to a lot of people in the AI Profit Boardroom community about this, and I think I owe you my honest take, because every time a tool like this comes out, two camps form immediately. Camp 1 says, this will create more jobs than it destroys. AI makes humans more productive, humans will focus on higher value work, everything is going to be fine. Camp 2 says, this replaces human work directly. The jobs are gone, the economy is going to break, we're all in trouble. Here's what I actually think, having watched this space closely for a couple of years now. Both camps are partially right, and both camps are ignoring important parts of the picture. Here's what is undeniably true. There are categories of knowledge work that are going to get compressed dramatically by tools like Perplexity Computer. Research and synthesis, information gathering, first draft writing, competitive analysis, data processing, and report generation. These are real jobs that real people get paid for, and Perplexity Computer is explicitly designed to do them better, faster, and at a fraction of the cost. That is not hype, that is the product working as designed. But here's what I also think is true. The humans who learn to use these tools well, who learn to brief AI systems clearly, who learn to quality check AI outputs, who learn to combine AI capability with human judgment at the places where that judgment actually matters, those humans become dramatically more productive and more valuable. The solo creator who used to produce 3 pieces of content a week can now produce 10. I know personally. The small business owner who used to spend weekends on market research can now get that research done automatically and spend the weekend on strategy and relationships instead. The freelancer who used to cap out at a certain number of clients because there were only so many hours in a day can now take on more clients because the execution work is partially handled. The gains are real, the displacement is real too, and the honest answer is that how this plays out for any individual person depends almost entirely on whether they choose to adapt or whether they choose to pretend this isn't happening. I know which choice I'm making. I know which choice I'm encouraging the people in my community to make. Now, let me get specific about who I think should sign up for Perplexity Computer right now at $200 a month price point and who should wait. Get it now if you're doing knowledge work that involves a lot of research and synthesis, journalism, content creation, consulting, market research, competitive intelligence. If you're spending more than 5 hours a week pulling together information and turning it into structured documents, Perplexity Computer will almost certainly pay for itself. You're running a business where ongoing monitoring matters. If you need to track competitors, monitor your industry, follow up on specific topics on a regular basis, the run for months capability is built exactly for you. You're a developer or product person maybe, and if you want to automate workflows that currently require manual effort, the 400 plus app integrations means there's likely several things you're doing manually right now that could become background automations. But wait, if you're primarily using AI for casual conversation and quick questions, the $20 Pro plan handles that. You don't need the $200 tier for that use case, or you can just use free APIs yourself. You're not sure what you use it for, maybe. In that case, don't pay for powerful infrastructure without a use case. Think about the 3 most time-consuming repeatable tasks in your life. If Perplexity Computer can handle any of them, it might be worth it. If you can't identify the use case, then it isn't worth it. And if you're on a tight budget and you haven't maxed out what you can get from cheaper models, there is a lot you can do with a $20 Pro subscription or just using free APIs out there. So start there if you haven't already. The credit situation as well. So let's talk about this. Max subscribers get 10,000 credits per month. Perplexity is also giving a one-time bonus of 20,000 additional credits at launch for existing users and at sign up for new users that expires 30 days after it's granted. Each AI action costs credits on which model is being used and how the complexity task is. The pricing is usage-based, which means you have control over your spend. You can set caps, choose which models run for which tasks, and manage your budget intentionally. I want to address the security question directly as well, because I know that's going to come up too for some people. So especially for people who watch my OpenClaw videos and are now wondering whether Perplexity Computer has the same security problems, the answer is structurally it's safer by design. OpenClaw runs on your machine, it has access to your files, your email, your operating system. If something goes wrong, if a malicious skill gets installed, if a prompt injection attack succeeds, the blast radius is your actual computer. Perplexity Computer runs in Perplexity's cloud, so every task runs in what they describe as an isolated compute environment, a sandbox space with its own file system and browser access, completely separated from your personal data and devices. You're not giving AI access to your computer, you're giving access to a contained virtual workspace that Perplexity controls and monitors. That's a fundamentally different risk profile. It also means that Perplexity as a company is responsible for the security of those environments. They can monitor what's happening, update safeguards centrally, and issue fixes quickly when problems emerge. That's a trade-off of the cloud-based model. You give up some control and customization compared to running things locally. In exchange, you get managed infrastructure, centralized security, and someone else responsible for making sure the environment is safe. For most non-technical users, the trade-off is obviously worth it. For developers who want granular control, they might still prefer something like OpenClaw or similar local agent tools. But for the vast majority of knowledge workers who just want to get things done without becoming a security expert, Perplexity Computer's approach is the right one. Now, let me tell you what I think happens from here based on everything I've seen. In the short term, the next few months, we're going to see a wave of people discovering what Perplexity Computer can do for their specific use case and building workflows around it. The early adopters are already doing this. They're figuring out which types of projects the system handles well, which it handles poorly, and how to brief it in a way that gets the best results. Those learnings will spread. The community around this will grow. And as more people share real examples of what they're building, the use cases will become clearer and more compelling. In the medium term, 6 to 12 months from now, I think we're going to see this category of product get dramatically better. Right now, 19 models. In 6 months, probably more, probably better models, probably faster execution, probably more reliable outputs on complex tasks. The model agnostic architecture that Perplexity built is specifically designed for this. As better models come out, they can swap them in. They don't need to rebuild anything. The orchestration layer stays the same. The models underneath just get better. That's a significant architectural advantage. In the long term, and I know this sounds bold, but I think it's just directionally true, I think tools like Perplexity Computer are what turned the solo operator dream into a real business model for a much larger number of people. The idea of one person running what used to require a team of 5 or 10 is not new. People have been talking about it for years, but it's always run into the same wall. There are so many hours in a day, and execution takes time. When execution is increasingly automated, when research, synthesis, first drafts, monitoring, reporting, and follow-through can be delegated to an AI system that runs in the background, that wall gets a lot lower. The one person that competes with 10-person teams, the freelancer who delivers enterprise quality research at startup prices, the small business that has the competitive intelligence capabilities of a much larger organization. That's where this goes. Not tomorrow, not perfectly, but directionally. And the people who are learning these tools now, who are building their intuition for how to brief AI systems, how to quality check outputs, how to integrate these into real workflows, those people are building a skill that is going to be extraordinarily valuable over the next few years. Let me give you 4 concrete things in terms of what you should do now. If you're a knowledge worker of any kind, creator, consultant, researcher, analyzer, and marketer, then go to Perplexity's website this week and just spend some time understanding what Perplexity Computer actually does. Not to sign up immediately, just to understand understand it. And then look at your own work. Identify the 2 or 3 most time-consuming and repeatable tasks in your week. Research tasks, synthesis tasks, report generation tasks, monitoring tasks. Ask yourself, could a Perplexity computer handle any of these? If the answer is yes, and for most knowledge workers it will be yes, then do the maths. How much time would you save? What is the time worth? Does the $200 a month price make sense for your situation? That's how you make this decision, not based on hype, but based on your actual use case and your actual numbers. If you're a business owner or manager, start thinking about your workflows differently. Not what do I need people to do, but what does this work actually require? Human judgment or information processing. A huge chunk of what knowledge workers spend their time on is information processing, gathering, synthesizing, formatting, delivering. That chunk is increasingly automatable. The human value in your organization lives in the judgment layer, the decisions, the relationships, the creativity, the strategy. Start identifying where your team's time is going and ask yourself which of these activities are information processing that AI can handle and which require the kind of judgment that no AI is going to replace anytime soon. That analysis will tell you a lot about where Perplexity Computer is, and tools like it can make a real difference in your operation. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Perplexity went quiet for 2 months, not because they were falling behind, but because they were building something that required their full attention. What they built was the most consumer accessible version of the multi-agent AI workflow concept that exists right now. Not the most powerful, not the most customizable, but the most accessible. The one that doesn't require a Mac Mini and a GitHub account and a weekend of setup. The one that works because you described what you wanted, and what they built runs on a genuinely brilliant insight. The most powerful AI system in 2026 isn't the one built on the best single model, it's the one that can intelligently orchestrate all of them. That insight, that the value is in the orchestration, not the model, is going to define how this industry evolves over the next several years. And Perplexity has built one of the most serious expressions of that insight yet. The agents are working whilst you sleep. The question is whether you're going to figure out how to point them in the right direction. I think you can. If you haven't already, feel free to check out the AI Profit Boardroom. It's available, link in the comments description, or just go to aiprofitboardroom.com, and from there you can get access. This is my private community that shows you how to automate, save time, and scale your business with actual workflows that I use. So feel free to check it out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like this stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.